So I'm Anne Jones, I'm the Assembly Member for the Vale of Clwyd, and I'm also the Deputy Presiding Officer of the National Assembly for Wales. And we're here today in the Senedd building, which, as you can see when we go around, is fully accessible. And that's because at the very heart of the plans when we had this building drawn up was accessibility and equality. And that's helped people like me with a disability, to be able to access every part of this building and not feel that there's no area for me that is very difficult. And so I think that what we're trying to do here is say to people that the Assembly and the Senedd building has to be accessible. It has to reflect on the views of the people that we represent. And I hope that many of you, having seen this, will put yourselves forward to become politicians, because if we can do it in Wales, then there's no reason why any other Commonwealth government can't do the same sort of thing. It's easy with a brand new building, I grant you that, but nevertheless, it was the will to make it accessible here in Wales that I think has proved that we can do it. And I hope we'll see more and more people with disabilities coming forward to represent the area. We have a lot of people out there in our communities with disabilities, and we need to make sure that their voice is heard inside the Senedd. So why don't you come along and be one of those voices? So we've moved over to the Peerhead Building, which is still part of the Senedd estate, and as you can see, this is a Grade 1 listed building built in 1897. But here we've been able to do accessibility issues as well. For example, we've put a stage in for people when they come for events with a fully accessible with a wheelchair ramp and with handrails on and off the steps. We've got a lift that's been fitted in, which takes us up to the floors that are used as seminar rooms and used for people with who want to come and put events on here. So I think, you know, for those of you thinking, oh yes, it's easy, that you've got a brand new building, it's easy to do those things. Well, we've done it here as well. So I think that in this building, which is, as I say, Grade 1 listed, we've managed to make those adaptations so that everybody is included here. It means that people with any disability can come in. There's a fully fitted loop system. The acoustics here could be different, but nevertheless the loop system will help those with a hearing loss. And also, they say, the lift, which allows us to go up and down on those floors. So yes, it is a nice sweeping staircase up to the Harbour Master's office and onto that floor. But nevertheless, we have put the lift in, which means that people can go up there and enjoy the views of the bay and actually come to seminars and look out with the rest of the people. So we're proud of what we've done here as the Assembly and as the Senedd, and I think it proves that old or new buildings can be made accessible without damaging the interior and without taking away the characteristic of the building. So we're here in the Senedd chamber, as you can see. As a new Parliament, as a new Assembly, we decided not to go on the confrontational style of opposite each other, so we've gone for a semicircle or circular approach, whereby we try to take out some of the confrontation. Doesn't always happen, but at least it feels as if we are all trying to be together, and that's what we're for. Now, the chamber is accessible, so we have a step. As you can see, it's on raised level, so the step behind us here, to my left, is a step that you can get onto and it will operate. So you can get onto this bottom level, or you can get onto the middle level. And also, as well, we've got lighting, we've got individual computers, so you can have your computers set to how you want them. So if you want a particular font, or you need an accessibility on there, you can have it. And we have headsets as well for those who would need to hear the audio instructions. We have bilingual translation as well from Welsh into English. And on the whole, I think this chamber works well. So again, it's one there where we try to include accessibility for everybody. And including the public gallery, which is just above us there, we have a seating for 120, and amongst those 120 we do have wheelchair access there, so there are particular areas where wheelchairs are in, and you can sit in your wheelchair and observe the proceedings. And so all in all, I think that this has been remarkably well done. I think it's something that accommodates everybody, and the acoustics in this chamber are particularly good for people with a disability of a hearing loss, or people who have some form of hearing loss, it's easier on their ears, and it's also easier for people to be able to stand up and speak. We don't insist that everybody stands to speak, because we recognise that in itself is a barrier, but what we do is say whatever is comfortable to you is acceptable to the chamber.
So the Scottish Parliament itself has a strong commitment to accessibility. It's at the heart of what we do, because we want everybody to engage fully with the Parliament, whether you're a member of the Parliament, whether you're an employee, a visitor, or a member of the public. There should be no barriers to success, and everybody should be able to participate equally, and no matter what your background or circumstances. And the Parliament has put in a range of measures over the years to make sure that it is fully inclusive in what it does. So that's just a little bit of background about the Parliament's commitment. But we want to hear from Jeremy and his perspective on this. So Jeremy, I know that you have been very active around campaigning for disability. You're the cross-party group convener for disability. And you've also been very open about that, your disability, which has been helpful to the Parliament, because it's the only way that we can learn. What do you think the Parliament could improve on in terms of its accessibility, whether from your own personal experience or the Parliament itself?
I think there are still things which we could do. So, for example, on occasions, we use sign language, but that's not something that we use on a daily basis. So that obviously excludes those with that type of disability. I think and this is probably politicians rather than the Parliament, but we are still quite wordy. So the only way to access us is through either email or kind of face-to-face conversation. And for some people that will always be difficult. And I just think we need to think of other ways to engage with people. I suppose there are things that the Parliament does. So, for example, we have a lots of cross-party groups on lots of different subjects. But again, up until recently, you've had to come to the building, you've had to be able to sit, you've had to be able to listen, you've had to be able to communicate in a certain way. And so I don't think we've been that inclusive in regard to some communication around cross-party groups and other groups within the Parliament. So I think there are areas we can look at. And I think one of the things perhaps positive out of the last 6 or 7 months is that the way that we have embraced technology. And so again, going back to it, if I live in the Highlands, do I have to come down for a 2-hour meeting, or can I do that via Zoom or some other technology way? And so I hope going forward into the next Parliament 21 and beyond, that we won't lose some of the positivities of technology, and we can use those to engage with people. I think the other thing is we sometimes engage with large charities, which is right, but we don't sometimes talk to the grassroots. And I think we, again, just need to work on when we're doing consultations, when we're communicating with people, how do we do that? And are we talking to people with real life experience on every occasion?
What more do you think parliaments can do to support people with disabilities? There's the parliaments have approached equality, diversity, accessibility in many different ways. The Scottish Parliament feel that it's done a good job, but it knows that it can always do more. So what advice would you give to parliaments in terms of the support that they can give to people with disabilities?
I think my overriding question is, don't presume anything. And if I can say that, I wouldn't presume to know how a woman would feel in regard to coming into Parliament or into politics. And the same would be with protected characteristics, because they don't apply to me. But I think there is a slight thinking, if we put a ramp in or if we do that, then we suddenly become an accessible Parliament. And so I think before I would do anything, I would go and talk to those who have a disability. So each jurisdiction, each parliament will have a different issue. For those parliaments that have been around for hundreds of years, then perhaps their access will be a bigger issue than it is for us here in Edinburgh. However, there will be other things there, working hours, expectation, how do we do meetings, how do we engage with meetings, all those type of things probably need to be thought through. And I think it will vary from country to country. So across the Commonwealth, again, I don't think it would be appropriate for a white, middle-aged Scots person to tell somebody in another part of the Commonwealth, these are issues you need to engage in. But I would say go and speak to your local communities, go and speak to your organisations, find out what the issues are for them and see how you can address them. And don't expect to get there overnight, but start taking small steps, because those small steps will build up, and I think it can be a change. And I think my final point would be it does come from the top. It comes from the presiding officer, the speaker of the place. It comes from the senior members of the management team that run a parliament. If their culture, if their mindset is right, then actually most things can be overcome one way or another.